Hi guys, how's it going? Tim Chase here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now today's video I'm going to be talking about quite a controversial subject, which is binge eating. Now it's controversial because I'm not a specialist or an expert in any way in binge eating. However, I thought you guys might like to hear my take on it, my opinion on it, and some tips on how you can not necessarily overcome it, but maybe cope with it. So the reason I want to talk about binge eating is because I am now 31 and I have never experienced binge eating myself, and I don't really know anyone who does it, because if you're a binge eater you tend to do it alone and you tend to be quite ashamed of yourself and you do it sort of behind the closed doors and you don't shout about it. However, this year for some reason I have had 2 times now where I have basically binge ate. Now, you've probably watched on my YouTube channel, I've done loads and loads of eating challenges. I do like to eat big. That is not technically binge eating. That is, yes, eating a lot of food in a short period of time, but I am fully in control of the situation. I am choosing to eat that food and I'm choosing to eat it quickly, and I know what I'm doing because it is part of a challenge. So that is not binge eating before you start typing that in below. However, there's been 2 occasions this year where I have uncontrollably eaten a lot of food on my own and I wasn't hungry and I just could not stop. So what is binge eating, I suppose, is the first thing, because some of you might be watching this and you've heard of it and you don't really know what it is, because like I said, it's often done in secret. Well, it's when someone eats a lot of food uncontrollably, often alone, in secret, often when they're not hungry, and they will just literally eat mindlessly. This often causes feelings of guilt, depression, sort of anger. You're ashamed of yourself, you're disgusted at yourself, and in theory this can create almost like a cycle, you know, where you may just keep eating more because you feel so ashamed of yourself until you've basically just cleared out all your cupboards, or you might even go and buy some more food. So that is basically what binge eating is. It's basically uncontrollable eating of food. So it's basically like a mental eating condition. It's not just purely because you're hungry, which is often what I am, but I can, limit what I eat. Otherwise, I'd obviously be fat the whole time. So the first time this year it happened to me, I'd been dieting very hard for a show. I'd been put on stupidly low calories. I won't go into the details of that now, but a coach had me on very, very low calories and 0 carbs. I knew it was a bit ridiculous at the time, so I thought I need a few extra carbs one evening just to get me over that line, over the finish line. I was about a week out from the show. I was on my own at home. I had some oats, and because I hadn't had any carbs for so long, this just set me off. And like I said, I was alone, no one was here, and I basically just worked my way through the cupboards in minutes and just cleared out peanut butter, rice cakes, oats, cereal, protein bars, chocolates, whatever I could find. I mean, it's quite lucky because I haven't got a lot in my house, but I basically just uncontrollably ate, and just ate and ate and ate, and I basically just felt sick at the end of it. But I just kept eating until there was pretty much nothing left, or I just felt so ashamed. So that was the first time, and obviously I don't shout about that on social media. It's not something you go into. It happened. I'm aware of it. I wasn't proud of it, but I know the reason what triggered it, and that was because I was at a very low point in my diet. I was really struggling, to be honest. Very, very tough that diet was, and I won't be doing it ever again that low. So that was a learning experience. And the second time was a couple of days ago. So I'd actually been to a festival, and I've been very balanced with my diet, my training. I've been increasing my calories, I've been enjoying life, but I went to a festival, I drank alcohol for the first time in a long time. I didn't eat food really all day, and got home late, ate loads of junk that night, tried to clean my diet up on the Sunday, and then Monday morning came. And I started off very well. And then I tasted something sweet. I thought, I'll just have a little bit of that. And it just basically went downhill from there. Again, I was at home on my own, and I just started working through all the sweet things in the house, like ice cream, granola, chocolate, protein bars. Again, it's the same sort of things in my house. So I just started working through them all again, sort of almost uncontrollably again. And that is why I wanted to give you some bits of sort of advice and tips as to, how I'm going to cope with this and how I'm going to prevent this from happening again, because it's definitely preventable for me, because I wouldn't say I've got a condition as such or an eating disorder, But there's been 2 occasions where I have what you could probably call binge ate, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this can relate to it, especially if you have competed or if you've dieted ever in your life. There comes that moment where you just realise, what the hell have I just done? I've just eaten completely out of control and for no reason, and you've probably been on your own. So how do you deal with it? Well, the first thing is get help, people. If it's just a one-off and you know what's caused it, you might not need to go and seek help because you might be able to sort of deal with it yourself. But if it is actually a condition and you're sitting here watching it and regularly you're eating absolutely tons of food out of control, mindlessly, and you're ashamed of yourself, your self-confidence is low, then you need to go and seek help. Like I said at the start, I repeat, I am not a professional. I'm not trained in this in any way, so I am not the man for the job, but I will give you my personal advice and opinion. So you need someone who specialises in cognitive behavioural therapy. I think that's correct. So you need to speak to a specialist. I'll actually put a link below. My partner Lucy, again, she's not a specialist, but she's very experienced with personal development, which is very similar. Now, personal development will massively help you if you have any sort of eating disorder, because you can actually get to the root of the problem, and that is the main thing. So the main thing is to get help, seek professional help, identify what is triggering this habit, because it's basically a habit. There's going to be something that is causing you to binge eat. So you need to deal with the root of the problem. Often you'll need to do this personal development, which is why I said I put Lucy's links below in the comments. Work on your personal development, work on your confidence, on your self-worth, on your self-esteem, basically so you feel better about yourself, because often people who are binge eating, it's because they are ashamed about themselves or something they've done, or they're disgusted, and then obviously they eat loads of food and they feel more disgusted, etc, etc, etc. So get help and find out what is causing the root of the problem. But some simple tips from myself and what I'm going to do going forward to sort of prevent it happening again. Obviously, if I want, I'll speak to Lucy, but I don't think I'm really at that point. So I'm fine doing the tips I'm about to say. First thing is I'm going to remove the food from my house that triggers me from going crazy. Obviously, in an ideal world, I should be able to have them in the house and not eat them. But for the short term, I'm just going to remove them, because I could just have a bit of chocolate and that might set me off. And I don't want it to set me off right now. I don't feel I'm in the right place exactly right now to have that in the house. So I'm going to go back to eating my normal meals and just remove the foods that set me off. So they tend to be sugary foods, funnily enough. And I would advise you don't put any deadlines or dates on sort of diet starts or diet ends, because what set me off the other day, as well as obviously going out and drinking alcohol, and that obviously depresses you a little bit and you're tired and lethargic and all the rest of it, is I knew that as of this week I was going to start cleaning my diet up for my wedding in 4 weeks or 5 weeks, which means that I therefore had a deadline. So I thought, well, I need to eat all the rubbish food in my house in the next few days. That puts the pressure on. So I'm like, well, I've got to eat at some point, so I might as well just eat it out, and then I just keep eating. So don't put deadlines on your diets, because if you know you've only got 3 days left until you've got dieting, you're probably going to start binging. So you're like, well, I might as well make the most of it now. I might as well eat loads of cheat meals. And the same, if you've just dieted for a show, the day after, that deadline, because you've dieted for that day, the next day, you're going to go crazy because it's been a deadline. So yes, put deadlines on your diets if you're not struggling and you're not suffering with any sort of binge eating. But if you are, then you don't want to be putting deadlines on your diets. God, I'm getting really into this. I'm sweating so much. Set yourself goals is the next one. So having goals, long-term goals, is great. So if I'm thinking I'm going to keep a clean diet to get lean for my wedding, that kind of works for me because it keeps me structured. And when I go to eat, foods that might set me off, I'm thinking, well, actually, that's not going to help me achieve my goal. But actually setting a deadline, like I'm going to start dieting tomorrow, that's probably going to set me off because today I'm going to eat what I want. But knowing that from now I've got to eat, relatively healthy, make sensible decisions, knowing the goal is to look good at my wedding, that should be the motivation I need to not go and have a binge. Again, be sensible. What set me off this time was I went out and had loads of alcohol. That was not sensible. I should have had a little bit, enjoyed myself. Haven't drunk for a while. I had loads. Therefore, the next day I was a bit hungover. And then it triggered all this crazy binge eating response. So I've already said to remove temptation, but also remove, like I said, identify the triggers and remove them. So I need to reduce that alcohol. I need to, not have the food that set me off, which seems pretty obvious, but it will help, because if it is, and I know a lot of people say it's like granola, if it is granola that sets you off, then don't have granola. If it's ice cream, then just remove the ice cream. And if you do have the food in the house, because some of you might have kids or family members that eat these foods and they're in the house, and so why should they suffer just because you are? You've got to tell yourself that this food isn't going anywhere. So yes, you might have a deadline for getting ready for a shoot, or you might start dieting next week. But this food's not going to go anywhere. A lot of this food has got a long shelf life, especially if it's like frozen or whatever it may be, chocolate, cereal. It's not going to go anywhere. And if it does go out of date, you can get more in the shop. So you don't have to have a binge mentality to eat it. It's not going to go anywhere. Right. If, like me, you do have a binge, or you're sitting here watching now and you've had a binge recently, or you have one in the future, and you feel ashamed and disgusted of yourself, how on earth do you get over it? How do you move on and try and prevent it from happening again? Obviously, apart from following all those tips I've just said. Well, bin the food and move on, people. It is as simple as that. Obviously, if you've got a mental condition, it is not as simple as that. But for me, I binged a couple of days ago. The food I was eating at the time, there was still a bit left. I thought, this is getting ridiculous, and I just threw it straight in the bin. I didn't put it back in the cupboard, I just threw it in the bin. And now, obviously at the time I felt disgusted, but now I've just got to think, that has happened, I need to forget it, and I don't want to try and counteract it with a diet. I don't want to try and counteract it with overtraining, because I'm just going to set off this sort of crazy cycle of, binge, starve, which is not healthy at all, and a lot of people actually get into that sort of cycle. So I need to just move on, realise I shouldn't have done it, move on, it's in the past, bin the food, and get over it, and do a video on YouTube. So I've, telling the world that I'm getting over it. And that will obviously help me as well when I next go for the food. I know that I've told you guys that I'm not meant to be going for it. And my last, final bit of advice is, going forward, that food that sets you off. So we're not talking about people who've got, actual mental conditions here. We're talking, more like people like myself, that if I have a certain food, it might set me off on that sort of binge cycle, or I eat mindlessly. That food, I can still eat it, but I need to eat it with people. So let's say it is ice cream that sets you off. Don't sit at home and think, just have a little bit of ice cream, because you're never going to have a little bit. You are going to eat and eat and eat and eat until you've basically got none left in the house, which is why I said to obviously remove it. But you can still eat it. There's no reason why you shouldn't. Just eat it with people. If you're out for dinner, you can eat ice cream. Someone with you is going to say, are you sure you need to eat all that food? Or you're probably going to feel a little bit guilty for just going crazy. But you're not going to be so mindless, because you're not on your own. Anyway, guys, that was a much longer video than I planned. I basically just rambled. But I hope you took something from it. I hope you realised that if you did have an episode of a binge recently, that you're not abnormal. You shouldn't feel disgusted. You shouldn't feel ashamed of yourself. It does happen to a lot of people. You just need to identify what's caused it and try and move on. And if you do need some actual serious help, then go and get a specialist. Or, like I said, drop my partner Lucy a message for some help with personal development. Anyway, I will see you guys at the next video. Enjoy.